that needs to be spoken of, that we don't speak about often, and which we need to, because of many of the things we are seeing unfolding before us. And I think a lot of people make the mistake to say that politics is what causes that. No, 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 no. And so I want to continue in that vein. Last week I spoke about children, and I think it is also fitting this week to get back onto that topic because of what we saw unfolding. I think yesterday many of us would have heard about gun some gun talk, basically at a secondary school on the island, being spotted. Whether it was found or not, the police has not confirmed such, but it was banted about yesterday. It was also talked about over the weekend, where we saw this behavior, children in Kingston, different places in KFC and the Bra. Now, one of the things that we are having, I don't know if people notice it, you have a lot of children who would congregate at these supermarkets on a weekend, especially a Friday, Thursday, or Friday, more so, and Saturday evening sometimes. But Friday seemed to be the day for them to congregate, whether it be at Annisvale or Kingston at Massey, the two Massey supermarkets outside there, or the bus stop or in the yard. And a lot of young people. And you get into the yard, that parking lot that Massey has it on his veil. Sometimes it's terror for a shopper to drive through that parking lot. Sometimes people don't come out of the way. Sometimes there's a lot of music. You can't even hear your own air inside there. Somebody's calling you. And people seem to just take the parking lot and make it whatever they want to. These young people, they're just there, just there. And they behave in a lot of unseemly manner. I got one story last week about a parent who basically came to the point where he said to me, I am on the edge because my child is being bullied from a group of students who apparently say that they're in a gang, part of whatever they call 6-7, whatever they want to call it. The parent was detailing this to me. I said, did you make a report? I said, I'm going to talk about it on a radio program. I said, did you detail this to the principal of the school? He said, yes. And he went many times to teachers and principal, and nobody seemed to be giving me redress. He ended up at the police. The police looked at him and saw that the man was also on the edge, and they had to contact the school. That is when a meeting took place. I mean, this is terrible what we're having in these schools with these bullying. And everybody seemed to think that it's a normal behavior for some people. I don't know why. It's a crime in a lot of countries. I mean, we see these things on television, whether it be the CNN, the BBC, the ABC, whatever it is, about people being bullied at school and what has been done to remedy the situation. But I think we live in a time where a generation, and I think for those who are really acutely aware of what is stated in scriptures, that we live in a generation of vipers. That is how they put it. I don't. I'm not going to add or take away from what is written there. Safe and except to say there's certainly a majority of them are acting like vipers. I can tell you that. Your children, 11, 12, 13, 10, 9, parents are telling me that they can't control them. I don't know what that is all about. You're 30 something years old, you're 40 something year old person. You're telling me you can't control a 9-year-old child. And you send them to school, and 3 o'clock has passed, and 4 o'clock, and 3:30, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and they're not in your house yet. 10 years, 11, 12. And one parent was recounting to me that they're saying van and van and van is the issue. Well, if you get out of school at 3, I'm quite sure you could be home, give and take, by 4 o'clock or 4:30 the latest. I'm quite sure you can. But you see these children, they congregate, they wait for special vans. They miss a lot of vans. They say they're not going in that. They're waiting for those with the music and the disorderly behavior that we see pervading society today. And you tell me you cannot go with a 12-year-old or 13-year-old child. Well, when the child was 9 and 10, and you were supposed to bend the child, you said that they would grow out of it. Nobody grows out of anything really. Grow out of clothes because when they're 9 and 10 years old, by the time they're 13 and puberty hits and they start sprouting, those clothes at 9 and 7 can't fit them anymore. So they grow out of the clothes. You understand? But that's the only thing basically they will gracefully grow out of. When they start having certain behavior and inculcate certain behavior, tend to form a pattern. And that becomes their MO, and it grows into them, not out, it grows into them. And that is why you have to nip things in the bud very, very, very early. But a lot of parents fail to do this, and then blame the system. Absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. And then there is this family structure issue that we are having today, which includes early parenthood, where a 14-year-old brings a child. A 15-year-old brings one, and a 16-year-old bring one. Sometimes they cannot even do the necessary things to help themselves, much less to help a child. And that is where you have a lot of problems coming now. So there's early parenthood that breeds a lot of problems because there's a lot of long-term social outcomes and consequences if you look at it. And there's a lot of links between childhood instability and future incarceration, which has been shown in many other countries. I was researching last week looking for some material where I came upon research from New Zealand and various other regions that suggests a lack of parental commitment and the absence of stable father figures are really the major risk factors for criminality and social exclusion. And that brings you to the point where these young girls being fooled by these older men, very vulnerable, they can prey on them, and a child comes to fore, and at 16, you really need help yourself. And so you bring a child, and we're looking for problems. If somebody does not take over the child wearing, a grandmother, a aunt who is much wise and mature, who can put some direction in the child. If that doesn't happen, we end up with what we are having today with all this sort of behavior that we are seeing pervading society. Outside of that, you have the influence of the American culture. I call it the cable TV, internet culture that come to these islands. We got to open up our telecommunications and we got start getting cable and internet more accessible to people. And people start seeing what they call the get rich quick schemes, where you can probably where you want to get rich without doing hard work, and you see these people flossing, as the young people say, on television, or listen to the music, and you think that they became rich overnight, and you want to attain such by sudden flight, and you end up in mayhem. So we really do have a problem which we need to address. um Politician didn't put you in a position to have the child. um you may have been living in poverty, and because you were living in poverty, we've heard a lot of cases where poverty breeds more poverty, they say, where some people don't know how to pull themselves out of it, especially if they don't get a help. And so women continue to make more children, thinking that the next man that comes along is going to take care of the first one. And he says, I'm not going to do that. He leaves you with one, moves on to another woman, and then another man comes in, and you say, well, I have two. And he's willing, because he now comes to the picture to get what he wants. And like the people say, a bite of the cherry. And he comes and he gets that. Another fruit is born, and then that man leaves, and then you end up with another one to get the fourth child and the fifth child, and it continues. And there we end up with one woman with six, seven, eight, nine, or even 10, and there's no one ready to mind them, and it lands on the state, and there's a pressure there. And because you can't deal with the pressure now, you really don't have much time to discipline, because you yourself are looking for a living somewhere along the line to try to take care of yourself. And so children are left to fend on their own, grow up with the advice of peers in school or on the road. And then you have all these things. Another teenage pregnancy comes along, school dropout comes along, another limited education opportunities. And it's a perpetuation of a cycle of intergenerational poverty. It just continues. And so structures will have to be put in place for that. And that is where government comes in now. But I want to focus on all of this, the children and the behavior. And if we don't address these things fast and put a stop in to this sort of behavior that we're having, and I'm talking about children who now have children, or parents who do have children and are paying sufficient attention, because it is becoming an epidemic, if not a pandemic, the sort of behavior we are seeing, right? This phenomenon of children having children. Say it's a pandemic, some people it's a pandemic, some people it's epidemic. And it's not, to me, any isolated medical tragedy happening here. It could be a systematic failure, systemic failure, I may say, of a lot of things, a lot of things, a lot of things, a lot of things. Because when a girl becomes a mother before her own childhood concludes, um, one would notice that the development trajectory of her country on a whole too is fundamentally compromised, and that is why you're getting some of the things that you're seeing happening in society today. And of course, then you have a crisis. You have a crisis there now. It's just really sobering, and you have to ask yourself what time is really given to children by parents when they come home from school in the evening. How many parents really go through the books to see what they do at school? How many give them an hour to talk to them to find out what is going on with their friends? What did they do? How many? I mean, what is really happening? Because something is broken and it needs fixing. We do have a problem, a large scale problem. That is why last weekend, when you see all that fighting taking place, these are children. Many of them are children, 16 and 17 and 15 and 14, involved in these gangs. But where are the parents? Do they leave home to go where? Where are they going in the night at 13 and 14? Why are they in Kingstown at those hours? At 13 and 14, you really should be in your parents' house. If you're in Kingstown, you could be with a parent, not by yourself loitering the streets of Kingstown. So where are the parents? Who is in control of these people? They must live in a house somewhere and live with an adult, I presume. But if they live with someone else who is just almost their age because they had them when they were 15 and 14, then you have a problem, because that woman, that young girl, I would say, maybe 24, she's looking for a man too on a Saturday night, because she thinks she's young and she doesn't want to be home. So we do have a problem. We have a serious, serious problem. So are these children, I mean, who's talking to them when they get home? Are they searching the books? And they have better phones than you and I, who work for money, and they're on the phone chatting day and night, and parents just apparently seem to leave them. They don't know what they're talking about on the phone. Some of them, a lot of them, majority of them, they don't know what they're talking about, who they're talking to. and the conversations and who they're who is encouraging and infiltrating them their tender mind. The parents apparently don't know that. They don't seem to know based on what we're seeing on the streets. It's a reflection of something. And this, my friends, is a serious issue. And it is a crisis. It is a crisis. And I think that we need to nip it early. But my focus is really on people who live at home. I'm talking about older adults who have children going to school or secondary school age, maybe early, Form 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you know what they're doing? Do you really know what they're doing? There was this group the other day that came out on WhatsApp. They were sharing around pornographic material. Young girls, Form 1, 2, several secondary schools here, naked, half naked, some fully naked. And the group was started by another child who's 13 years old going to school. So he has a phone, he can access WhatsApp, Facebook, TikTok, everything. What is his parents doing? Did his parents know that he was the one that started the group? And all these pornographic materials circulating within the group? Where is the parent for that child? And why would you want to give a 12, 11-year-old a phone that has access to these things? I don't think, I mean, I may sound tough, militaristic, some people, but I am of the opinion that a child 10 and 11 does not need a phone to access social media. If they're going to school at 12 and 13 and you want to give them a phone, I think you should give them a phone that they can make and receive a call. They don't need no access to any social media on that phone. In school, if they're doing IT, they're not using their phone. They're using the school's computer lab. So that's not an excuse to say that they need it because they're doing IT. No, they're doing it in a classroom with tools provided by a school. And if they say to them they have to bring a laptop, that's a different story. Because you can manage that laptop. They get it the day they have to go to school to do what they have to do. When they come home, if they're not going to use it for any kind of class session, it should not be in their hands unless they're going to do some kind of research, which you yourself will have to monitor because at 12 and 13, a child needs help with the homework. So don't find all these namby-pamby excuses to tell me that a child needs at 11 and 12, just because they're passed to go to grammar school or high school or St. Martin or this or that they need a phone that can access all these different social media. You know what is on them. They don't need that. They're not ready for it. Because basically what we get and what we receive on this end of the spectrum with these social networks are not good for children at that age. They're not ready for it. And I really don't and I object to anybody who tells me that they have to give them one that has access to all these things because they're going to a secondary school at 11 and 12. No, they don't need a phone that has access to these things. They need a phone that can make and receive a call. And that's it, point blank. Because the moment you put them on that, a lot of them don't study their books anymore. And don't be naive and don't pretend. There was a mother I was speaking to, and she said that the child would study her book all the time, and yet she came at a number that the child who passed very well in the CPEA exam with a top school. And she was like, but if you came so high that you can go to a top school, why is it you're doing so badly in school? You come home, you're studying all the time, and then lo and behold, you'll find out she's not doing the work with the child really. The child is always studying, but the child has the book and the phone is in the book. And the mother not paying attention, the child is utilizing the phone, not the book. All these simple little things that people miss. And that is why I say I object to any child at 11 and 12, 13, 14, even that They don't need these phones. So it's just a matter of people not wanting to carry out their parental responsibilities and just looking for the easy way out. And then someone may say, well, I work all day long. I get home, I'm tired, and I don't have time for the child. Well, you're the one that brought the child here, didn't come on its own. So you will have to find some schedule somehow to at least spend a thoughtful hour or thoughtful half an hour with that child to ensure that they're on the right road. Remember, they're not spending most of the day with you. They're in school where they spend a lot of time and can be influenced by people who have nothing good up their sleeve. So if you don't detox them when they get home in the afternoon, you're setting up yourself for serious disease. That's what happens to the body if you don't detox it from time to time. Set up yourself for some serious issues because you're ingesting all of this and you're not expelling it the way it should be expelled. So I don't want to hear people telling me about, oh, this and that and this and that. You have to take responsibility for what you brought into this world. If you don't, we're ending up with what we saw in Kingston last weekend with children. Absolutely ridiculous. And sometimes I wonder if these parents are not concerned that their child is on the road after 5 and minutes to 6, and they come home to tell them, well, we couldn't get a van. Well, you can get a van. You just don't want to get into that one because that one doesn't have the music and they don't have the crowd that they have been so advised to go with, influence to go with. And if you don't teach them about peer pressure and all of that, as the people say, because in the end, you really have your mind to make up, but you're the one who have to instill certain things inside of them at a very early age if you want them to at least beat and try to beat whatever pressures they may face when they go into the school system. And don't tell me it can't work. It can work because it worked for a lot of us. And you may say it was a different generation. Yeah, it was a different generation and with each generation come different forms of pressure. Yeah, and I understand all of that. But the basics remain the same. If you don't inculcate early, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems. You're building a house. If you don't lay a proper foundation with some steel, you are going to have problems. So whether the house is big or small, it is the same thing. It must have a proper foundation or it will collapse. Styles may change, how it look may change, things that you add to it may change because you're moving in a different time, but the basic thing remains the same. Every building must have a foundation. Without it, it is going to collapse. Rubbish when people tell me, oh, it's a different generation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said that before. Different generation, I understand. Cool. But the foundation issue remains the same. You put up a 12-story building, a skyscraper, a flat, it must have a foundation, or else it is going to crumble. So that's where we are with this whole thing. Foundation. And the problem we're having with the foundation outside of people who are maybe in late 30s or 40s who have children and they're sending them to school, who should be able to lay a foundation. The problem we're having on the other end of the spectrum is that those who are 15 and 16 are still having their foundation laid, but they're now bringing forth children. So that is where one of the major issues lie. That, my friend, needs serious discussion, and it needs community involvement as well. I know a lot of people these days, you can't talk to your children. And one woman said to me, if she see them going over a cliff, going to break their neck, she not doing anything because people going to come and say if she touched the pick me in the first place to begin with. So she's leaving them. I said, no, you can't do it like that. So we've come to a society where people are very selfish, and that is also aiding a problem. Back in the day, you could have told Mr. So-and-so his child was behaving badly down the road. Mr. So-and-so would have dealt with the child. Now, if you go and tell Mr. So-and-so, they'll say, peep in your own bowl. And that is where we have another problem because of the selfishness of mankind and the way people operate today. So society has gone one way. Now we have children having children, and we have those who have them who are at the age that can lay a foundation. It's just not doing it. And then after that, we set up ourselves for what we saw last weekend and more. And if you don't pay attention, we could be called failed state. A lot of things take into consideration. That is part of something that can lead a country to be a failed state. So children having children is a serious issue. And we have a lot of it going on in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We don't want to talk about it because some of the people who get these children pregnant, a lot of them sometimes are people of worth, as we call them, people of some kind of stature. People don't like to have these conversations because they touch a lot of toes, whatever you want to say, touch the corn. And some people don't like to have these conversations. But there are conversations with uncomfortable truths, which we must have if we have to eradicate part of the problem. I am not sure. I was trying to get some data. It's very difficult to get proper data in St. Vincent on anything, really. We don't keep proper records. It's trying to get a real up-to-date something on, how much teenage pregnancy that we're having or have had over the last 40 years, 50 years, if we're keeping any records at all. It's very, very difficult to get any sort of records. I was told I'll have to wait for a while, somebody to compile and to try to see if they can get that for me. So when I get it, that could be a different program all on its own. But we really do have a problem. We really do have a problem which we need to sort out. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't lay foundation for our children, we're going to have this problem on and on, generations, and it's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. I'm really at a loss how parents, and I talk to a lot of parents because following the first program, a number of them did contact me to tell me they're having problems with their children, not coming home early. They don't know what to do. And I mean, I find that to be a very worrying thing. If you are 40 years old or 38 and 39 and don't know what to do to get a child that is 11 and 12 home, in a time that they should be home, I find that to be a very worrying thing for you as a parent. Should you really be a parent? Because you must have an interest as to where your child really is if a certain hour has passed. And added to that, if you're leaving the 13-year-old and 14-year-old to get out of the house on their own to go with friends, you don't know who the half of the friends are, if you know any at all. That's a worrying thing. That really is a worrying thing and something that needs to be dealt with and looked into. You know, in the bigger countries, they would say that you abscond your obligations, you would be charged at some level. Child could end up in foster home, and that's it. So it is, all I'm saying, it is very interesting, some of the answers that you get. And I am really looking forward one of these days for people to really have serious discussions about this sort of issue. I'm talking about at all levels of society. Like I said, some people fear to tread on these things, but it is important that we do it. It is important that we do it. Because if we don't, we're looking at serious decay in the years to come. I think we've already seen some of it. We are seeing some of it already. We don't like it. We end up having radio programs to talk about it. If we don't nip what is supposed to be nipped in the bud, in the root, we are going to have some serious problems going forward. We are going to have serious problems. And we really have to deal with it as quickly as possible. We must. And so last Friday, around 6:30 to 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I mean, the scene I saw down at outside Massey Annisville is terrible. And an elderly couple who was going into the parking lot had a lot of trouble getting inside there. I mean, they would have turned off the main road, entered, and just got stuck right there between the entrance and the bus stop. Couldn't move because these young people were carrying on music loud and just was not giving way to the vehicle. They said they were frightened out of their wits. They had to screw up the glass. They had to lock the doors because the people were even coming near to the vehicle. Some even got so close to the vehicle that you could feel the weight pushing the vehicle. They have no respect. If this was someone who had no tolerance for nonsense and decided to move the vehicle in a position and someone got hit, then you would have heard the entire world saying, "You knocked down my child, you broke the law, you're going to get locked up, you're going to have to go to court to answer charges." But yet, these children are allowed to do whatever they feel, break the law, have in loitering in people's compound, carrying on with dance hall inside their levels. They have some party going on inside it, which I know they didn't pay for the parking lot to do so, but that's what they turn it into. And there's no parent making a big scream about it. But if something had happened, every parent would have been on radio talking about what somebody did to their child and how the child is a good child. What the hell is a child doing there 13, 14, 15, not in your home, but inside Massey parking lot, carrying on with that sort of behavior, what is this? Where are the parents for these children? And everybody shut up. They don't say anything. They get annoyed, some of them. Well, touch me, pick me now. You go see, touch them. That is the behavior that they carry on with. But they don't care that their child is out there damaging people's property, loitering on people's property, blocking traffic, which people have a right to if they want to shop at a supermarket. People ask me, well, what about the security of the supermarket? Well, if you have 1 and 2 security and you have over 100 people or nearly 200 in the parking lot carrying on, you really think that those security, that 2 individuals, you think they can come out and really do anything? They make a trample outside there enforcing what they're supposed to do, which is in their purview to do. They will get trampled and fights will break out and everybody will blame them. No. We can't continue this sort of behavior. We can't continue it. If parents don't want to pull up the children and control who they have, well, somebody will have to control them. And if the state will have to end up enforcing something to deal with that, they will have to do it. Of course, then you're going to hear the cries of people that they're taking away civil liberties and they're taking away people's right to assembly and to have fun. No. That is not fun. Loitering is not fun. Damaging people's property is not fun. No, it's not. And it brings me back to the point I made early. Early parenting. There's no foundation for these children because the people who brought them need a foundation themselves. And those who could build a foundation refuse to do it, abscond on their duty. And that is where a lot of our problems are coming from. Because everybody's child is a good child, you know. Everybody's child is a good child. And when the child does something, you know, everybody run comes and they say, well, you know, he's a good boy, a good girl. Where were you when the child was out there doing all this sort of, you know, carrying on? Where were you? Where were you? Why did you abscond your duty as a parent? Why you did not lay a foundation? Why did you allow your 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old out of your house to be on the road acting like a hooligan when they should be in your home? Why did you allow it to take place? Well, you're on a phone. There was an accident that happened, an incident that happened some years ago. And the child got beaten down, I may say, from an older person because the child decided to act in ways should not have acted on people's private property, spoken to multiple times, same day, told not to do it, or what the repercussions could be. I understand reports were made to the necessary authorities, and the child came back the next weekend, apparently following friends, and did the same thing. Reports were made. Again, parents were contacted. Child came back 2 weeks after with friends again, same thing incurred. And the man said he had enough on his private property and decided to give them a beating of a lifetime. And they got it good. Parents came out to support child in their behavior, blaming the man, say that the man should not touch their child. Well, you were warned more than once. You cared nothing and did not make necessary changes. And so the child ended up in the hospital after a beating of a lifetime. Man said he would do it again. Well, I think the case went south due to certain mitigating circumstances. Don't know what happened to the parent if they left St. Vincent. Haven't seen them for a while, neither the child. That is where it got to. Child could have ended up dying. Who you would blame? You know, you were warned more than once. You were warned by the police to take charge of your child. Well, I simply don't know. I'm not here for anybody to take anybody's child, responsible for and send them to the hospital. I wouldn't encourage that. I would not encourage that. If your life is in danger and you think that you have to do something that may warrant somebody ending up like that, that's a different story altogether. But lack of caring about your parental responsibilities could lead to things like that. Woman was home on her bed, texting away. She didn't care that her child was out there. All she knew is her child. Don't touch my child. She was home texting away. Didn't care. Didn't care. Didn't care. That made her care. I don't know where they are today. I don't know. Probably left the country. Sad situation. The depth some people have to reach before they can actually pull themselves together is very worrying. Very, very worrying. It all boils down to you taking responsibility as a parent. You must do all that you can do within your purview to ensure that your child has a foundation. So when they meet with these, some people call some of them, all sorts of names. When they meet with these other children, they will know how to act, when to say no, how to walk away, how to leave the group if it's inimical or even deemed inimical to their well-being. But it all starts in the home, where the parent has to become a parent, not a child. Because what we see is that a lot of people have handed over their parental responsibilities to their children. Yeah. We have the reverse going on in society right now, where children are now the parent and parent now the child. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm sure you have. Tons of cases like it out there. Right here, you don't have to go far. You don't have to walk the streets of New York to see it. Right here, there's a case where I saw when I was in New York one December and waiting for a bus. And here comes this young woman. Didn't look more than 28 to me, 25 going to 28, in that age gap, really. Could have been young, I don't know. Could have been older too. Who knows? But she had this child with her, and you can see from the handling of the child that she didn't have much experience with children. That's why I placed it there. But it was nasty. And in those society, if you hit your child, they say, "Oh, you can't do that because it just goes against the grain of everything." And the child was screaming hell hard, cursing some choice words. You're looking at somebody who's probably 5 or 6, nothing more, I believe. It's just carrying on, kicking and screaming. And she was like, "Could you please behave yourself?" I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking in my head, if this person was in any way in the Caribbean, their head might have been behind their back by now. And it was just awful. And everybody's looking and saying, "Oh my God, oh my God." But nobody's doing anything because you can't do anything. Because if you do anything, you know, you might see a squad car pull up next to you. And that's it. It just got really, really irritating and boring to me. And I took a chance. Could have been in jail. I mock shot in New York. Could have. But I took a chance, and I went over and I asked the mother, "What is going on? Is the child sick? Is the child hungry?" She said, "No, child is just rude." I said, "Oh, so it's your problem." Hmm. Okay. Child keep kicking, screaming, and I just went down to the child's level and I said to the child, "If you don't stop." But before the stop came out of my mouth, the child stopped, stood up there, standing at attention, he was in a police line. And that was the end of the conversation until the bus came. It's not me for me. It's not for me to track them. It's just simple, showing you that sometimes a father figure is necessary. If you don't, you will have to become the father figure, stern, and some mothers end up being that, very stern. Could fix a lot of things like that. But I just wanted to put that on the table, whatever it's worth. We have a lot of problems. We have to fix them. Parenting is an awesome responsibility, a big, big, big responsibility. We have to inculcate in our children, those of us who have the mindset to do it and should. If you don't, you have to find it somewhere to inculcate in the children from an early age what and what is not. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to find time. Don't tell me you don't have time. You have to find time. You spend a lot of time scrolling through social media. Hours, you could do it. And you have to hit it where it hurts sometimes the children. You have to give them tough love. Tough love. Not only for them, it's for you. Because if you don't, they could send you to the cleaners. And cleaners in this sense mean a lot of things. It could wreck your health. Your blood pressure could skyrocket. A lot of people complain about that because of children. because they leave it too long to bend. They could send it to the cleaners by way of your money. You have to bail them out of police station every Monday morning. You know, send it to the cleaners, wasting a lot of money, sending them to get a proper education. They turn out to be, mere vagabonds. You have to bend it while it is young. Stop saying that they will grow out of it. It ain't growing out no way, growing in. You have to take charge and do your parental role. Play it to the fullest, or else they will play you and you will end up paying a hefty price for it. Well, I think it's 12 o'clock. I'll take the break there. Maybe maybe if there's no call, I'll uh, I'll give it for today.
All right. Yeah, there's no call on the line at the moment.
If not, spend the last couple of minutes. I came in
Oh,
a bit late there, so maybe I have about 5 minutes left.
we actually hit 12 on the dot.
This situation is one that needs your time and your full intervention. I'm making a plea for all parents, all would-be parent. Just having a child. Some people see it as fun now these days. Oh, I have a child. It's my child. Yes, 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 yes. Children are good to have. But if you don't inculcate what is necessary in that child, some people say that they end up regretting they have children. I heard a woman say that one time. It's not a good thing to say. I think she regret the situation that she's found herself in. With the child, I don't think she regret really having the child. Because one time it was a nice bouncing baby and she used to be, around the place and happy and gingy. But I think she's regretting the situation, of course, brought about by her own lack of some sort of responsibility in an area. She faltered. So we have to be very careful. Having children is no joke. Raising them can be fun and it can be painful. You have to do it. You have to do it. Or else, like I said before, if you don't, they can take you to the cleaners in all sorts of ways. Family structure is important. Early parenting, when you have early parenting, it's going to be very, very hard. The more we can keep out our young girls from that, the better it would be for all of us. And these men who prey on these little children, they have to be dealt with in the harshest of ways. But I recognize in our society that that could be something that we don't want to face. Well, you have to face it if you want to get rid of the problem, or at least quarter and half of the problem. We'll have to deal with it. But it will take a different set of people to deal with things like that. A lot of the people that we have around today, or 10 years ago, or 15 years, or whatever, a lot of people that we have probably talk about it, but really don't mean anything serious because, kind of, you know what it is in this society here. But we have to deal with it because it's part of the problem. Anyway, I'll leave it there until another time. I want to thank those of you who joined and listened to the program, whether be near or far. Hope that you guys have a good day. And once I'm around next Tuesday, we will be back to definitely continue the discussion on many of the things that are affecting us in this society that needs talking about, that we've neglected for many, many years. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Ernesto. And that was the Ernesto Show on the Shaco program for today, Tuesday, February 17th. Up next, we have WeFM's Midday News headlines coming to you with the kind compliments of St. Vincent Distillers Limited.
3, 2, 1. WeFM is SV.